I've prepared this video to partially fulfill the requests from the Light is Awesome, and that is to do a video explaining what engine changes I'm doing and why, after having seen my Junkers 88 a short walk. Other than what you'll see in the video, the changes I make to the engine or the cowl flaps are based on the optimal water and oil temperatures for the engine that you can find on the specs page tab next to the map. When diving, I have the flaps set to the minimum possible setting, and I keep an eye on the temperature so I can achieve the maximum speed. During this video, we will cover emergency engine management for the Junkers 88 A4 variant. At the end of this video, you'll be able to select individual engines, switch individual engines on and off, feather individual props, and adjust the individual radiator or cowl flaps. This process together we will call the immediate action, or the IA. Before we continue on with the video, we'll carry out some revision of the Ju-88. This will include distances and the operational range. It'll also include the default keys for the operations required in the video. First, we will cover distances. The Ju-88 with 100% fuel capacity has a bomb dependent and operational range of approximately 2,430 kilometers. To put that in perspective, we'll now go through the IL-2 map to scale that using the IL-2 Battle of Stalingrad navigation tool linked below. As you see here, each grid reference, which is the small squares within a grid square, equal roughly 3.3 kilometers each. Each grid square equals 10 kilometers. This gives you a diagonal of approximately 14 kilometers and a double diagonal of approximately 22 kilometers. Don't forget to round up. The entire map from end to end is not more than 358 kilometers, giving an entire diagonal of the map to be not more than 426 kilometers. Here is an example of a sortie where at least some care is taken to avoid the enemy. When you add up the legs, the distance between each waypoint, you get a distance not more than 173 kilometers when rounded up. This is just more than 10%, which is the minimum load that you are able to take in IL-2. From this, you can make your own deductions. However, when you take into account some simple precautions, that you burn more fuel while in climb mode, which your engines can tolerate for only 30 minutes. You take longer to get in between waypoints when climbing. Enemy fighters over the target may cause you to loiter. Any fuel leaks from Russian fighters. These are all reasons to take more fuel. I can't tell you how much you need, but I would personally take not less than 30%, but not more than 40% fuel load. That completes operational range, distances, and fuel. What we'll now move on to is default keys for selecting individual engines. You can identify which engines are selected in the bottom left of your screen by the 1 and 2. The highlighted number is selected, the dull number is not. You may have to double tap the number initially to select and unselect it. That completes engine selection. We'll now move on to engines on and off. You select the engine type as previously instructed, then you press E to start or stop. That completes engines. What we'll now move on to is feathering. You press left control F. It is a toggle, so you can feather on and off with the same command. That completes feathering the engine. We'll now go on with the radiator flaps or cowl flaps. Left Alt, plus or minus. We'll adjust them. It's a point to note that the Junkers 88 has a UMO 21 engine, which is in fact a V12 liquid cooled and not a radial engine. It just has a odd looking radiator configuration, and it was later to be used in the Focke-Wulf 190D series. That completes revision. We'll now move on to the engine IA. The IA occurs immediately on recognizing that one of your two engines is not performing to the standards set on revs and throttle, causing drag and unstable flight, reducing speed and altitude. As soon as you identify that your engine is no longer functioning properly, or it's better off than on, you need to follow the sequence we just rehearsed in the revision. Select the engine, turn the engine off, feather the engine, and then lower the radiator flaps. This simple process is designed to reduce as much drag as possible so you can maintain flight. In addition to this, if you are intercepted prior to your target, you will need to drop your bombs. Be aware of your fuse time and the altitude you have. Use any excess speed you have to gain some altitude. Be cautious of not losing too much speed. Do not turn into the dead engine, however. The Ju-88 is the most forgiving aircraft, in my opinion, for doing this. It will be bad at low speed. After having completed the engine IA, in this example engine 2, when you adjust the settings on engine 1, it may adopt the settings of engine 2 immediately. However, you can just reset them and they will stay how you leave them. On final approach, remember you're running on one engine and any methods you employ to decrease speed may work better than you intend. It may aid you to have your good engine dip slightly down and to counter with rudder and land as per a strong crosswind. That completes the IA. We'll now practice that. To practice, it's as expected. Choose a quick mission with the ordnance and altitude you choose. You can choose any aircraft, the principles are the same. You just have to close extra radiators. Go through, select the engine, turn the engine off, feather the prop, close the radiator flaps. To aid you further, make sure you drop any external ordnance and internal ordnance. Check the settings of your good engine. Be aware that your engine settings of your good engine will stay the same, but when you try to adjust them, the game will think that the engine is set at whatever setting you last applied to any engine. Your engine won't overheat if the cowl flaps are open on your good engine. However, it will just think that the flaps are closed. So if you try to decrease it, nothing will happen and you'll have to increase it, and then it'll start from 0 again and go back up. You can select auto level to ensure that your aircraft can actually stay at the same altitude. This eliminates all your inefficiency of pilot input. And to finish off, here's a quick demonstration of sudden turns into the dead engine. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learnt something. And if you already knew this, I hope you saw a different way of doing it. There is one variation that can be more efficient, and that is to feather the prop prior to turning the engine off, because there is a pause between turning the engine off, allowing it to do some functions, and then being able to feather the prop. Thanks again, and I hope it helps. Thanks for hanging around to the end, and here's some info about me. Hope you enjoyed the type of instruction or the way I gave the lesson. I have a military background, infantry specifically, and that is basically the only way I know how to pass on information. Let me know if you liked it. It does, however, seem insulting to your intelligence, but it is meant to reinforce the correct way of doing things so that you don't practice the wrong thing and then reinforce failure. Cheers.